Hello everyone, Robert Rambles here, and with the announcement of the Burning Crusade Classic's official release date and pre-patch date, I've been thinking a lot about the things that I'm excited for Burning Crusade, and in this video I'm going to talk about some of those things that I'm excited about, and some of the things that I'm not. As you guys know, I really enjoy reading all the quests and getting into the story and lore of WoW as much as possible through the game. And so one of the things I'm most excited about in TBC Classic is going to be the leveling experience from 60 to 70. Compared to how leveling felt in Classic Vanilla, TBC may feel like an entirely different game for many reasons. In Vanilla, it can easily take a player hundreds of hours to reach level 60, and in fact, a lot of players simply don't get to max level at all, never getting to experience any of that endgame content. In Vanilla, leveling can slow way down around level 40, as you're forced to find questing hubs that are more and more distant from each other in the world. Maybe you'll do a couple of quests in Tanarus, and then have to head all the way over to the Hinterlands for something else to do. And then it will be back to Kalimdor, into Fairless, a couple of quests later. You're just traveling all over the place very often, so that a lot of your time is spent between quests, and not actually working on objectives. Since the Burning Crusade only has 10 additional levels, what we're being given is an incredibly cohesive and tight-knit leveling experience that will never leave you searching out quests to do, nor will it require you to travel those vast distances that later game Vanilla often did. It's gonna feel like a smooth progression from one zone to the next, and in fact, there may be entire zones, like the Netherstorm or Blade's Edge Mountains, that you don't touch until you're already level 70. I remember using those quests for additional gold back in the day. With less time to reach max level and more connected and cohesive zones, the story and lore that we're going to get out of questing will also feel more immersive and more rewarding. And while we're talking about leveling, for those of us wanting to level up a new character for the Burning Crusade, we'll also be getting changes to experience and level gains that originally didn't happen until late in TBC's life, but that we'll be getting on May 18th during the pre-patch. It will take a bit less time to level up those new characters, which is nothing but good news, since at the time of writing this, my level 48 Human Priest has over 160 hours of played time. With that more coherent and streamlined leveling experience, I'm super excited about reading all the quests and getting as into the story as I can in the Outlands. When I played BC back in 2007, like many people, I was just out to level as quickly as I could and gear up as quickly as possible. This time around, I plan to get immersed in the world and in the questing process. However, this is still World of Warcraft quest writing and quest design and storytelling, and we all know that we'll be picking up animal poo and killing people indiscriminately as often as not. And don't expect any really concise overarching narratives to connect the zones we level through, even if most players will take the same path through the zones on the way to level 70. The Burning Crusade is still a long way from questline storytelling like what we saw in Suramar, for example, but it will be a vast improvement over Vanilla for many of us who've always enjoyed the story and lore of WoW. For a lot of players, the most exciting feature of the Burning Crusade lies in the two new races that are introduced into the game, the Blood Elves and the Draenei. Finally, Horde players will get a pretty race, I'm doing air quotes there, and the ability to play a Paladin. And the Alliance, well, they'll get a perfectly fine Space Goat and the ability to roll as a Shaman for the first time. Originally, the Blood Elves and Draenei were not playable until the full release of the game. This time around, for Classic, we're getting them in pre-patch, and while we'll only have 2 weeks of pre-patch before the Dark Portal opens, it's more lead time to level those races than players originally got back in 2007, so we should be happy for that at least. With each of these new races, we're getting 2 new leveling zones. The Blood Elves will level through the beautiful Eternal Spring of Eversong Woods, and then the Scourge-cursed Ghostlands, while the Draenei will begin in the dense shadowed woods of Azure Mist Isle, then move on into Blood Mist Isle. Along with a slight graphical upgrade over the other starting zones, the quest chains and quest rewards in these new zones are much improved over the vanilla starting zones, and at the end of each, you'll get a nice blue weapon for your class. A long time ago, a friend told me that the main characters in World of Warcraft were often the zones themselves. Each zone has always been visually unique and filled with its own specific flora and fauna, its own settlements and wildernesses that really do come together to form an immersive experience. BC ups the ante when it comes to visual distinctiveness between its zones. There's really no downside to this, because as soon as you feel like you're getting tired of staring at a zone, you'll find yourself stepping into a new area that looks totally different from where you came from. Even if you're not someone who's going to read every quest, the zones themselves and the things going on in them have enough character to really let you get that immersed feeling. With the pre-patch will also come changes to the classes. In Burning Crusade, a slew of class changes and rebalancing was made, really all of which were for the better, and serve to further flesh out classes or specs, or resolve long-standing issues that people had with those classes in vanilla. Paladins will get Crusader Strike for Ret, Priests get Vampiric Touch, Hunters get Steady Shot and Kill Command, and that's just to name a few. Everyone will be getting new spells from their trainer on the way to level 70, and will also get access to the new 41-point talents. The only real downside of this I can see is that with all the changes, it may make some people reconsider their main character choice, which could be detrimental to you if you're someone who really wants to play an optimum character, but who has limited time to level up in alt. Obviously, a list of things to be excited about in TBC wouldn't be complete without talking about the raiding. As a player who started playing at the tail end of vanilla, got to max level in Burning Crusade, I didn't quite make it into raids in BC. My warrior was 1 or 2 pieces away from being considered worthy for Karistan, but I didn't quite make it for a lot of reasons that I won't go into right now. But I'm really looking forward to being able to see those raids for the first time in TBC Classic. It's also worth noting that raids in BC were smaller than raids in vanilla, and no matter how much nostalgia you have for the big 40-man raids, it's ultimately easier to organize and manage 25 or even 10 people than it is to wrangle 40. There's also a higher sense of individual player accountability, I feel like, in the smaller, more intimate raid that I really appreciate. But I'm someone who still to this day feels that my raiding experience peaked in 10-man Ulduar hard modes. However, if you're an existing raiding guild who's built its roster around that 40-man raid, then going to these smaller raid sizes could definitely cause you some level of grief, as they did originally back in 2007. And obviously for more casual players, it's still going to be a bit of a grind to get your heroic dungeon sets and prepare for raiding, depending on the RNG that you experience in runs. As always in WoW, this will hit people the hardest who don't have decent guilds, or a group of friends to play with, as well as people who have their playtime severely limited, with that pesky thing we call RL. Overall, I'm excited for endgame because with only 10 levels to get through from 60 to 70, a lot more people who play Burning Crusade are going to get to experience that endgame content, as opposed to vanilla, where, like I said, a lot of people don't even get to the endgame, and so the percentage of people who get into that endgame content is really limited. So I'm looking forward to a really lively and robust endgame experience with plenty of players around to run content with. Overall, I feel like TBC is going to bring classic World of Warcraft into a new era of enjoyment and excitement for its player base, and I think it'll pull in a lot more players as well. People who are just interested in that era of Burning Crusade, but maybe they didn't want to play through all of vanilla again. I also feel like the way that Blizzard are changing the deployment, things like including the new races in the pre-patch and the leveling adjustments that originally didn't come until later, will be nothing but positive for the game and for the community. Despite some of Blizzard's more questionable business practices and the inclusion of paid content in Classic, I really hope that you guys are all looking forward to TBC Classic as much as I am. And I really do hope to see you guys beyond the Dark Portal when that day finally arrives. If you liked today's video, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll have a lot more TBC content in the upcoming weeks, months, and hopefully years. Until then, take care of yourselves out there and take care of each other, and we will see you in Hellfire Peninsula really soon. Bye now.